Have you seen all the inexpensive planters they have out at Dollar Tree right now? Well, in today's video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can use them in your home. One of the best planters at Dollar Tree are these larger self-watering planters that they have in the Dollar Tree Plus section. I picked up 2 for my front porch. They come in a bunch of different colors, but I wanted to spray paint mine black. So I took them outside and I spray painted 2 light coats of spray paint. I did the outside and then I also did the inside layer. Let that dry completely and then you can put any plant in here. I wanted to put the plants that I had on my front porch last year. You guys really liked these last year. I added these to some other planters on my front porch. All you have to do is put a foam piece at the bottom and then I'm gonna add in these ferns. These are from Amazon. I will link them for you down below or I'll put the QR code right here if you're interested in picking them up. I'm gonna place 2 of the ferns into the foam piece on each of the planters. And you would never guess these planters were from Dollar Tree. Another new planter I was excited to find this year are these hanging planters. Now you could put these on your deck or your fence post, and really the options are endless. I got these gorgeous pink flowers and I'm going to plant those into these planters and I'll hang them up outside. When I was at the thrift store, I found this box and absolutely loved it. I love picking up old boxes like this, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it at the time, but I'm gonna be using it in our next DIY. Whenever you're done using your aluminum cans, you can reuse those as planters. Don't throw them out, just clean them out, and then you're gonna remove the labels from the outside. Now you are gonna wanna add some drainage holes to the base. So I drilled 3 holes in the base of all of the cans. Next, I'm going to paint them with a white sample paint. So do a pretty thick coat. You only need 1 coat. Then I'm going to add on a napkin. So I have these blue and white napkins from Amazon, and with every napkin, there's usually a white backing piece. You wanna make sure that you pull that backing piece off so you just have the top layer. After that white paint was completely dry, I'm gonna add Mod Podge to the outside of my can. Then I'm gonna place the napkin under that top rim and I'll pull it tightly around to the back. Now, luckily my napkin covered around the can completely, so I'll add a little bit of Mod Podge to hold it down. Now with the bottom half, you can either tear it off or you can try to cut it off and try to Mod Podge it around the base. Let this dry and you're gonna repeat these steps with your other 2 cans. I wanted to make these a little bit higher, so a great thing you can do are add wood beads to the base. So I'm gonna add 4 wood beads with hot glue to the base of my cans. This is just going to set them up a little bit higher when I put them into that box I got at the thrift store. You can plant anything in here. I'm gonna be adding some herbs that I can keep out in my kitchen. I picked up some herbs at Walmart. I'm gonna add those into my planters. Do you guys think that Dollar Tree has been watching some of our YouTube videos? Because when I saw this planter, I thought it looked very similar to a planter we would DIY on our channel. And it had this great texture to it. They had a stone finish. Honestly, it was perfect. And I knew that I didn't need to DIY it. But I am gonna be adding in some of my favorite faux succulents. So I placed a bunch of rocks in the bottom. Now these rocks did not match. I actually used rocks from another DIY. And then on the top, I just used the rocks that I wanted to show, which were these white Dollar Tree rocks. I'm gonna put 2 bags into the top. And from here, you can add any plants you have. I have an entire container with succulents. So I'm gonna be using 3 Dollar Tree succulents, and I'll place those into my container. I'm also going to add a Dollar Tree succulent that has a little bit of height to the center. And I love this longer greenery that they have at Dollar Tree. I've used it in so many different projects, but I'll just place that around the edges. I love how it kind of hangs over the sides, but here's how this planter turned out. For our next DIY, pick up a glass vase that they sell at Dollar Tree. You're also going to need some pressed stems. Now, I find the best place to get these are off of Amazon. And honestly, they have so many different styles. So these are the ones that I picked up off of Amazon, and I'm going to add these with Mod Podge to my vase. So I started with a foam brush, just adding Mod Podge to about 1/3 of the vase. Now, this whole DIY I'm doing is inspired by an anthropology vase, and I just love the way this looked. I picked up the pressed stems and added them to my vase. You want to make sure that it's completely pressed onto your vase. If I was doing this again, I may go get a pair of tweezers because these are very delicate and they can break. So just be really careful when you're adding them on. So I added them all around the base of my container. Now I let this dry and I realized that the Mod Podge was giving this more of a frosted look. So I probably should have added the Mod Podge to the entire container. So I went back in and added Mod Podge to my entire container. And if you want to cover over your pressed stems, you can do that as well. Once it dried, I added in some white rocks. Then I added in some florals that I picked up off of Amazon. I will link those for you down below, or you can scan the QR code to get to the florals. And I just took those out of the package. I like to shake them instead of spreading them out. That's the easiest way to spread out your florals. And then I'm gonna place them one at a time into the vase. Now I did want to add in a few more rocks, so I added in some rocks to cover up those stems a little bit more. And here's how it turned out. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is planter. Another planter you may want to consider picking up at Dollar Tree is this geometric one. Now the 2 colors I've seen it in is white and black. Not sure if they have any other colors. You guys can let me know down in the comments. But I wanted to do a sponge technique on this planter. So you're going to need a sponge. You can pick these up at any craft store. I was lucky enough to find mine at the thrift store. So cut off a piece of your sponge and you're going to want to wet it in water and then wring it out really good. That's the best way to use these sponges. I'm going to be using 2 different colors of paint. I have kind of a dark gray and a light gray. I find that whenever I'm sponging on paint, it's best to just add it slowly and kind of figure out what technique you want to do. So I started by adding the darker color to the base. And then I mixed in the lighter color. I wasn't sure how much I was going to go up to the top. I ended up adding paint pretty much to the entire vase. But the key whenever you're adding 2 different colors and sponging it on, really if you're using any technique, is to go back and forth between your 2 colors until you're happy with the way it looks. And honestly, after it dries, if you want to adjust the color, you can still do that. Don't be afraid of the paint and just add it on till you're happy with the way it looks. Once this dries, you can add in one of your favorite plants. I also think these terracotta planters are really fun. I love the shape of these. I wasn't so much into the terracotta color, so I wanted to kind of tone that down a little bit. The first thing I did was spray on the color Terracotta by Bear. That's kind of a funny thing, adding the same color, but I will say it was a lighter terracotta color. So I'm gonna spray that on and cover the bottom side of the planters. Then I'm gonna flip them over to the front side. I sprayed the terracotta color to the front side. The other thing I wanted to do was add some texture. So to achieve that, I got some sand in a beige yellow color at Dollar Tree. And after I sprayed on the terracotta color, I added the sand to the edge. I continued to do this by spraying on the terracotta and adding more of the sand. Now, as I was doing that, some of the sand was going yellow and some of it was kind of going that terracotta color. I was okay with having that mixture of color. I did also wipe off the excess sand and kind of tap it off so I didn't have too much on my planter. I let this dry completely because with these kind of techniques, I have to look at them and see what I think, and then I can add in additional color. I did think it needed another color, so using a sponge, I got that wet and I added in some additional terracotta color. This was even kind of a darker terracotta color, so I sponged that all over the planters and let that dry. From there, I was happy with the way it looked. I did kind of think about maybe adding in some white, but I decided to keep it the way it was. So you'll have to let me know what you think. From there, add in some of your favorite plants. I feel like every time I go to Dollar Tree, they are getting new planters. I love how many gorgeous ones we have this spring. Now, one of my favorite ones is this one. It comes in white and black and it has a fluted finish on it. I think these both would look great in your house. I'm gonna be showing you how you can style the white one. Now, I'm gonna be adding in these florals. These are out right now at Dollar Tree as well. And all I'm gonna be doing is just putting them into this vase. I'll twist down the bottom of the stem and place them into my vase. The reason I'm not cutting the stems is so that I can reuse it in another vase later. And here's how they turned out. I wanted to try to recreate something that I found on Anthropologie's website. Now for this DIY, you're going to need 2 different sizes of planters from Dollar Tree. I used one of their $1.25 ones and a $5 planter. You're also going to need 2 dinner plates. Get a dinner plate and a smaller salad plate. Now I wanted these to be a terracotta color, so I have a sample paint in a terracotta color. I'll mix the terracotta with some baking soda. I like to do this because it makes the paint a bit grittier, and so it cuts down on the amount of coats you'll have to do. So I'm gonna put a coat on every piece I have on the planters. I will also do it on the plates, front and back. I let this dry completely and then I came back in and did a second coat. Once your planter and your plate is dry, you can attach these. The best way to do it is to add some E6000 to the bottom of your planters and place your plate on top. Let it dry overnight. You can dress up any Dollar Tree planter with peel and stick wallpaper. Just pick your planter and then you're gonna pick some peel and stick wallpaper. For this particular planter, you want to get one that's as smooth as possible. I'm gonna be using 2 sheets of peel and stick wallpaper. Start by putting your wallpaper on so that you have enough hanging over the top and the bottom so that you're able to tuck that in. Smooth the paper down and cut off any excess, leaving about 1.5 inches at the top and the bottom. Then you're gonna tuck the top edge in and the bottom edge. Now the bottom edge wasn't sticking very well, so I used a little bit of hot glue to make sure it stuck well to the bottom. I'll add on an additional piece of peel and stick paper to the back, wrapping it around and doing the same technique, cutting it off at the top and the bottom. If you need a little bit more paper, you can always cut that off and add it. And again, with that bottom, just add a little bit of hot glue. Now, this is a great way to dress up a simple Dollar Tree planter. Just add in your favorite plant. Have you ever had your own propagation station? Let me show you how to make it with Dollar Tree items. You're gonna wanna get 3 packs of the salt and pepper shakers that they sell at Dollar Tree for a total of 6. The other thing you're going to need is some sort of base. I went with this wood slice that they have at Dollar Tree. So I removed the tops of the salt and pepper shakers and laid them out to see how many I could fit on my wood piece. Next, I'm going to use E6000 to attach them all together. Then you're going to let these dry overnight. Now with my base, I added in the stain color Early American, and I just painted that on and wiped off any excess. I wanted to raise this up and make it a pedestal style. So I have this silicone mold in my craft room, and I also had some Quikrete, and I thought I could make some bases from this silicone mold. So I'm gonna be using the Quikrete, and I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of water. I mix it up until it's a thick pudding consistency. Then I'm going to put the mixture into my silicone molds. Now I only need 4, but I'm gonna make 6 because I find that sometimes when I do stuff with Quikrete, some of it doesn't turn out great. So I like to make a few extras. I'm gonna place it in the silicone molds, and then I'm also going to shake that silicone mold, tapping it down on my table to get out any air bubbles that might be in the mold. And I'm just going to fill it up till it's level at the top. Let your Quikrete dry overnight. And then you can pop the silicone molds out. And then I'll use E6000 to put these little legs on the bottom of my wood piece. Your propagation station is almost ready. So I'm not an expert at propagating plants, but I did look up how to do it. This plant grows great, and so I thought this would be a perfect plant to try. Essentially what you're going to do, and I'll kind of show you down here. So on this right here, see where there's like a little dot right here, and then there's one here and here. This is a root system. So if you cut just a little bit below this root system and put that, it should grow roots so that you can propagate. So we'll just put these tiny little plants inside. When I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across this racket in the summer toys, and it reminded me so much of those screens that people use to place in bowls whenever they're putting in floral stems. And I thought, let's try to recreate that DIY. I found a large bowl in the kitchen section and also a smaller bowl. So we're gonna start by painting the bowls. And anytime I'm wanting to figure out a fun paint technique, I always look on Pottery Barn's website for inspiration. I came across this planter, and it had this cool like white and blue finish to it. So I was thinking, okay, how could I recreate this, add in texture? So I had about a half container of spackling. So that's gonna be my base. To that, I added some blue paint that I had, and then I also added in a little bit of sand from Dollar Tree. Now, because in the inspiration you have that white and blue mix, I didn't want to completely mix these two together. So I just roughly used a scraping tool to mix these two paint colors together. Once it was kind of roughly mixed, I started with the large bowl, and I'm going to add it to the outside of the bowl. I'm just going to use my scraper to apply this spackling. You want to make sure that you completely cover the bowl, but it does not have to look perfect. In fact, it looks better the more rough texture that it has. So I'll do that with the first bowl, and then I'll do the same thing with the smaller bowl. let this dry completely. After it's dry, you want to look at it and see if you need to add in any additional spackling or paint. Then on the smaller bowl, I'll put E6000 on the bottom and then place the larger bowl on top. Make sure that it's nice and level. Now with the racket, you need to cut off the handle. So I used my handsaw to cut it a little bit, but I ended up just snapping it in half after I cut it a little bit. So you could probably just snap the handle off. Next, I placed the top portion of my racket into my bowl and I added hot glue to secure it in place. Now, once you have this in place, you could add in any florals. Dollar Tree has really been stepping up the florals that they've come out with this summer. So I picked out some of my favorite florals from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to bend the bottom of the stems and place them into the screens. I added 2 different varieties of florals and then just move them around till you're happy with the appearance. I love the full appearance in these florals and it just looks so great sitting out. I love recreating items that I see on Pottery Barn's website. I saw this green vase and absolutely loved the color of it. Now, I lucked out at the thrift store and was able to find a planter that was in a similar shape to the one off of Pottery Barn's website. I did need to add some rope to it, so I'm just gonna use some basic nautical rope, hot glue it on the back, wrap it around, and hot glue it in place. I'll do 2 different nautical rope strips on this planter. Then all I did was spray paint it with this really deep green glossy spray paint. I'll do 2 coats on one side and flip it over and do 2 coats on the other side. From there, I'm just gonna add in one of my plants that I have here, and here's how that planter turned out. Very similar to that Pottery Barn one. Planters can also be used as organization. So you're going to need one of the large 3 planter caddies. You're gonna need one of the large ones and also one of the small ones. You're also going to need a dowel rod for this DIY. So I wanted to stack the smaller one on top of the larger one. So I decided how long I wanted my dowel rod to be based on the fact that I wanted to be able to put items on the bottom in my bathroom. So once I determined that, I cut my dowel rod down to size. I drilled holes in the very center of both of my planters as well as my dowel rod. Now I did cut some shim pieces that I could put in with my dowel rod to help me really hold those screws in place. And I was also worried about the plastic breaking, so that's another reason to add in those shims. So using a shim and my planter and a screw, I'm going to screw in my dowel rod to the bottom planter. And then I'll attach the top planter the same way. Next, I sprayed the entire piece with the color Sand Dollar. You're gonna wanna do 2 coats to make sure you completely cover it. Then you can fill it with some of your favorite bathroom essentials. Now you don't have to use this in your bathroom, it would work great in other areas of your house as well. For this next DIY, pick up a $1.25 planter. You're also going to need some large wooden beads. Mine are from Amazon, and I used a combination of E6000 and hot glue to attach 3 of these large beads to the bottom of my planter. This season, electric blue is very popular. We're seeing it on all the high-end sites. So I went to Lowe's and I found an electric blue paint sample, and I just had a sample made of that electric blue paint. I'm gonna paint 1 coat on the entire planter, including my legs. Now I wanted to add a little bit of texture to this piece. One of the items I picked up was this scrub brush from Dollar Tree, and that's what's going to give me texture on this planter. So I mixed the electric blue paint. I also added in some spackling and this kind of dark gray color. I mix those all together, and then using that sponge, I'm going to sponge it onto the entire planter, including those legs at the bottom. Let this dry, and then you can add in your favorite plant. Let me show you how to age any terracotta planter with paint. So you're going to need two colors, an ivory color and kind of a medium green color. And the best way to go about this is by using a natural sponge if you have one. So I put a little bit of ivory paint out on a tray and some water, and I'll dip my sponge into the paint as well as the water. Start with your ivory color, and I'll dab off as much excess as I want. Then I'm gonna start dabbing it onto my planter. If you feel like you're adding too much paint, add a little bit more water to tone it down. You can also use a paper towel to wipe off any excess. Once you're happy with the amount of ivory, you can come in with that green color to make it look like it has moss on it. So I would concentrate that either on the top or the bottom of your planter. You also want to do this same technique if you're using a saucer, adding the ivory and green colors just so it matches well. Once you're happy with the amount of color on it, let it dry. The other thing I wanted to make for this planter was a trellis that my plant could vine on. So to do this, I picked up some shower rings at Dollar Tree and I laid them out on a board. I'm going to attach the shower rings with E6000. I also attached a small dowel to the bottom. That dowel is what's going to actually sit in my planter. Next, you can plant any vining plant in your terracotta planter. You're gonna place your shower ring trellis in the back after it's had time to dry overnight, and then your plant can vine up that trellis. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is planter. Let me show you how to recreate concrete pottery barn planters for way less. Go to the thrift store and pick up 2 round glass containers, preferably 2 different sizes. You're also going to need some Quikrete. You want to mix the Quikrete with water on a plate, and you want it to be a little bit runny so that I can use a sponge to place it onto the outside of my bowl. So I'm going to take a sponge, dab it in the Quikrete, and start to dab it onto my planter. If it's too thick, like it was when I started doing it, just add a little bit more water to thin it out. You're gonna dab it all over your planter, making sure you cover the entire planter. Do this with both planters and let it dry overnight. When you come back the next day, you're gonna notice that there's some areas where you can kind of still see the glass through it. Just go around and do another coat. The cool thing about this is it's actually going to be a different color and consistency, because I feel like every time you mix Quikrete up, it's a little bit of a different shade. So I like that. I like having a little bit of that dimension. Again, let this dry again overnight. Then you can put in some of your favorite real or faux plants. I found these faux succulents at Hobby Lobby that I felt really mimicked that Pottery Barn piece, and I'll add these in, and here's how they look. So what do you do with those $5 Dollar Tree planters if you're not into the color? Well, I find that painting them matte makes them look a little bit more contemporary. So I'm gonna spray paint this $5 Dollar Tree planter a brown color. Make sure you do both sides and do 2 coats. The other thing that I think makes it look a little bit more realistic is adding in speckled spray paint. I have several of these. You can get them in darker colors and lighter colors. I find sometimes mixing the 2 colors looks really nice. And then you can either add in your favorite indoor or outdoor plant. Let me know down in the comments which DIYs you'll be doing. I love knowing your opinion. And and make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.